Coverkillernation. If you guys have been around my channel for quite some time, you'll know that power metal really isn't my thing. And I don't mean it's not my thing like I don't like it, it's just that it's not something I can listen to on a constant basis. I will get very burnt out of it very quickly, which might have explained why I never did that Blind Guardian discography that Doug wanted. Sorry, Doug. We'll eventually get to it. In fact, if anything, if we can find a way to mutually do it. Oh, that just sounds so sweet. Anyways, there is a new release out there that a lot of you have been asking for me to cover, and it is in the power metal department, so I feel I need to actually touch base on it. Plus, I listen to the damn thing, so I might as well. This is, in fact, one of the bands in power metal that I have tolerated throughout the years, not to mention actually kind of like, so in a way, I'm kind of compromising with myself and you guys. The Age of the Joker by Edguy, which was just released here in the States, actually, this past Tuesday, but was out in Europe for a couple of weeks now, so this is not necessarily a new album per se for some of you. However, for others, this may be something that's coming off as only about 2 or 3 days old. Now, this is a 65-minute long album, which for power metal is not altogether all of that unlikely or, you know, not something that's all that crazy. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Edguy has sort of made a little bit of a shift to their sound a little bit. And it seems like it's geared a little bit towards hard rock, kind of arena rock, if you really want to call it that, with only kind of some passing glimmers of the power metal that we know and love from albums such as Hellfire Club and prior to that. Now, I have theories about all this. I have a lot to say about all this, so we're just going to get right into it, but just know that there are some people that are going to have some real disparaging arguments regarding that, and I think I'm able to set a lot of things straight. Now, this is an album that is 11 tracks in length, as I said, about 65 minutes long, and that's just in the basic edition. There's actually a 2-disc special edition that comes with, I believe it's like 6 or 7 extra bonus tracks, which is going to clock the grand total of everything into over an hour and a half, or something along those lines. Now, I'm going to do the basic, regular, standard run-of-the-mill edition, because that's what most people are going to get. Especially people who are poor, who are able to find this album and can't afford a couple extra bucks for the special edition. Plain and simple. So, this is an album that has every potential to be a really solid power metal release for this year. And if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember what power metal releases I've even covered this year. I know I've done Stratovarius, and to a certain degree, some people may consider Communic to be the progressive power metal, which is kind of, it kind of counts. But Jag Panzer is another one as well. This has real potential to be up there on the power metal list, so to speak, for Coverkillernation, because it's a list that's going to be extremely small to begin with. So this had a lot of potential. And whenever I first heard the first track on this album, which is entitled Robin Hood, which is all about the story of Robin Hood, I thought to myself, wow, this has the opportunity to really wow me. This is 8.5 minutes of a very, very nice storytelling take on the tale of Robin Hood with epic music that surrounds it. We're talking, this is very, very conscious songwriting as to what the audience was going to be feeling whenever this was being listened to. And that is a good representation by the band, and a good, it was a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Shit, I can't think of it. It was a good representation by the band, though. It was something that was done very well, and the way in which it was presented to the audience is certainly very engaging, and it keeps you really into it, and that's something that I enjoy about this track a lot. There are moments where I just want to put the fist in the air. You know, there are moments where I'm just kind of listening with a lot of heightened curiosity, and then there's moments where, you know, you just gotta sit back and watch where it's going. Now, the rest of the album, on the other hand, has kind of its ups and downs. This is something where you have one great track that just blows you away, and then the rest of them are kind of like, you have to find little subtle glimmers in there in order to really enjoy the rest of them. Either that, or they just don't seem to really compare to what you got on the first track. Like, the first track really just blew your mind. You know, you were going nuts. You're like, yes! You know, this is going to be great. And then, you know, the other 10 tracks just don't really live up. Now, this is something that's not totally true. I mean, there's a couple of tracks in here, like 2 out of 7. 2 out of 7 has one of the catchiest fucking introductions that I have heard in quite some time. And this is something where I had to stop and replay because I thought it reminded me of like some song from the 1980s or something that I had heard before. I don't know. I still can't pinpoint it, which is just, it's totally driving me nuts, and I hate it. If you guys have any idea of what this might sort of kind of sound like, definitely leave it in the comment box, because I would really just like to silence this from my soul. But it doesn't really matter. It's not something that bugs me all that much because I do actually enjoy the song, though the lyrics sometimes leave a little to be desired. I mean, how many songs do you know that have lyrics such as, "What the fuck, suck my cock, I'm only a 7." So this obviously sounds like it's a song that's sort of parodying that whole idea of a numerical scale for somebody's attraction or somebody's compatibility with another person. Edguy's always had a fun little take on things, so this is something that's very quirky, but at the same time very cool. There are a lot of tracks, such as Pandora's Box, that have moments where they're exceptional. Breathe is another one that certainly exhibits that. And it's just, the real complaint that I have is that this is kind of an album where it only comes in small doses as opposed to delivering throughout the entire course of the whole. And, you know, here's theory number 1 on this. I actually have theories on this. So, if you remember, it was, I believe, early 2010, where the 2 Avantasia double discs came out. Or maybe it was this year. Everything's running together, folks, and I just had the death in the family, so my mind's still a little scrambled. But there was a 2 Avantasia double disc, and now here's a new Edguy album. I mean, that's a lot of songs. It's a lot that was done in a very short period of time by one man. And a good way to really, I guess, replicate that or give a good example to how that can really falter is in the last 2 albums of the Something Wicked trilogy by Iced Earth, where John Schaefer essentially wrote enough material for 2 albums that were both released at the same point in the same year, and it just didn't resemble the classic that we all remember, which is, of course, Something Wicked This Way Comes. Now, this is something that I feel is... I experienced this myself as an artist, especially as a writer, where if you try to do too much in a shortened period of time, you really start to feel the strain, and that which is kind of substandard easily becomes standard, and you're willing to do it just to kind of get it done. And you'll let the rest iron itself out later, which it obviously never did for this particular album. Now, a second thing is that a lot of people are going to be very disappointed because it seems as though Edguy is starting to... This was a little bit more of a return to form than their previous album, but they're still kind of abandoning power metal for the most part, like 85% of the time, for a more hard rock or an arena rock style version of power metal. Now, this album actually does Bon Jovi better than Bon Jovi at some places. And the real crime here is the fact that Bon Jovi will be played 17,000 times on the radio a day, whereas Edguy will not even be heard of, or no DJ will ever even mention their name. 2 out of 7, like I said, has a catchy intro. The lyrics leave a little something to be desired, but I could easily see that on the radio, and I could see that being an anthem that a lot of people that are maybe my age or older would really enjoy. Kids these days, they don't have appreciation for stuff like that. That's a little bit simplistic. They need everything to be like... At any rate, I think that that's going to be something that a lot of people need to just sit back, relax, and enjoy the music for what it is. Because this is an album that does the hard rock / power metal idea very, very well. It's able to mold the 2 together. It's able to represent both in fair legions. But overall, I think what needs to be seen here is maybe a little bit of time for Edguy to kind of, you know, regroup, maybe tour extensively for this album, and then go back into the studio for their next release. That way, they don't run into this idea where, you know, Tomas has the Avantasia, and, of course, Edguy, and he's doing it all at once. That's basically my principal complaint. My principal complaint is give yourself some time where you're just doing that project, focus on that project, and focus on making the best possible album that you can, because as much as the Age of the Joker is, you know, fairly decent, it's just not going to be something that's going to crack the top 20, or maybe even make it as an honorable mention in the 25. So, this is going to be one I'm going to have to give a 7.5 out of 10. I mean, it's not bad, but at the same time, it's only epic in small doses, and I need something that's epic in a very large dose throughout the entire course of the album to really warrant a very high score. coverkillernation saying that for what it's worth, a couple of these tracks are damn good, so it's still something that's worth your investigation. It's just something where I would not go into this album with guns blazing and hearts held high for the best Edguy album that you've ever heard, because it's not.